Hi, this is an overview of the Judgement Soulgazer heroes from patch 9, which is early 2020. Alright, so first we have Cruel the Orc Witch Doctor, that means Sayan the Elf Priestess, Svetlana Oklas the Dwarf Druid, Zyvira the Minotaur Necromancer, and Zarin the Human Necromancer. So in general, the role of Soulgazers, they're the best heroes in the game at soul harvesting. And soul harvesting is great because it's often easier than killing enemy heroes. You can pick up a soul with 2 actions, where killing an enemy hero is almost always going to take more than that. And Soulgazers often have secondary utility abilities. The downsides, they're generally fragile and don't have great basic attacks compared to aggressors and even hybrids. The soul harvesting is kind of dicey, so if you spend 2 actions and you need to roll a 7, even with a reroll, that can be not great odds, and so you can end up feeling like you kind of wasted a turn. And you also are dependent on those loose souls, so if the opponent picks up the loose souls first, your soul gazer can kind of not have great choices in terms of what they do with their turn. So an overview of the Soulgazers by the numbers. So in terms of their attack scores, Saiyan and Zarin kind of stand out with their magic 7, and Zyvira is particularly poor with her melee of 5. In terms of damage, Cruel is great with 2, 3, 4, but when he picks up a soul, he gets a bonus damage. And also, Svetlana and Zyvira are uniquely poor with 1, 2, 4. In terms of their defensive stats, Zyvira is particularly bad with a 3-0. Saiyan has a 5-0, which is pretty good. And then Svetlana with a 3-1 and +1 in melee is pretty great. And Cruel gets a +1 res when he picks up a soul, so he has a 4-1, which also makes him pretty tanky. In terms of health, Zyvira has that typical high Minotaur health of 16, and Saiyan has a poor elf health of 13. All of them have a 6 Soul Harvest score, which is the best in the game. And then in terms of movement is particularly important for soul gazers because they often want to be moving into position to harvest souls. So Saiyan's high move score of 5 is helpful for her, and Svetlana's low move score of 3 can be problematic. So in terms of their cards, soul gazers often have a lot on their cards. So I'm going to try to breeze through this, but know that they're probably going to have some other abilities that are great that I'm not going to touch on. So first, with Cruel, his Soul Enhanced, where he gets +1 damage on cudgel attacks and +1 res when he has a soul, is great. The ability to transfer a soul to a friendly hero on death is good. Being able to apply Curse is great utility, and the ability to extract soul also powerful. His ability to add an extra -1 on enemy soul harvest attempts is particularly good as well. So Saiyan, she has kind of a healing secondary focus with Aura of Light. The +1 damage on her Wither Soul can be really great against heroes that have souls bound to them. And then she also has a couple of defensive utility abilities. And then finally, and she can strip souls. And finally, with Soul Bank, being able to move a soul to your effigy is with 1 action is really great because she can spend 2 actions to harvest a soul, and then an action, a fate to bank. It's really great for protecting those souls. Svetlana, so as I mentioned, she has that 1 res with +1 on melee, which makes her very tanky. Her Beast Command is really great. Being able to move a monster 3 inches, which can then trigger attacks against enemy heroes, is particularly good. Astral Intervention lets her harvest 2 souls in a turn, which situationally can be amazing. Being able to hang on to a soul when she dies with Soul Keeper is great. And then Beastmaster is also pretty cool. If she gets level 3, she can sit right next to a monster and it will ignore her. All right, Zyvira. She has tons of stuff on this card. There's so much text, but I'll try to whiz through. With Blood for Blood, she can heal friends. With Corrupt Bond, she can do 5 true damage to enemies, which is really fantastic. Unholy Harvest lets her harvest from long range with a penalty of suffering some health for your friends. Diminish Will is a great utility ability, and Soul Link is a great utility ability as well. And with Zarin, it's not really represented well on this card, but he can summon skeletons and then use them to harvest souls. And then once he has, normally that costs 1 fate, but once he has a soul bound to him, he can do that for free. So he has great long-range soul harvesting. He also, with his magic 7 and 2, 3, 4 damage track, he can actually do pretty well just blasting. And then also the fact that he can place Shadow Orbs makes him uniquely good with Rakir. All right, so just kind of an overall comparison of what makes the Soul Gazers good. Cruel and Svetlana are uniquely tanky. All of them have some amount of damage output. I put yes for the ones who have good basic attacks, but Svetlana and Zyvir also have good utility abilities that let them do damage. Cruel, Saiyan, and Svetlana have kind of good soul protecting abilities, whereas Zyvir and Zarin both have abilities that let them harvest souls from long range. Also, Cruel and Saiyan have ability to strip souls from enemy heroes, which can be really great combining that with a soul harvest action. All right, that's my overview of the Judgment Soulgazer heroes. This video is brought to you by wartable.online, where you can play Judgment for free. I'd love to hear your feedback about how I represented these Soulgazers, or any your favorite Soulgazer, or any tips and tricks for playing these.